Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So by the time this video goes up, it's actually 2022. So happy new year everyone. A couple days ago, one of my favorite photographers, Julia Trotti, did a blog post recapping her 2021 in 100 photos, and I thought it was a really cool idea to see what the year brought. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through my 2021 in 100 photos, and I really encourage all of you to do the same and to look at your 2021 this way, because when I did this, I got to see not only the memories that I had throughout this past year, but I also got to see all of the photography interests I had throughout this past year and just how my photography changed throughout the year depending on the season that I was in. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so I've ordered all of the photos on my laptop here from January all the way to the end of December. So the first photo we have here is in January, and it's when I started playing with splash photography. So I actually remember, like, this was our old place. I didn't have anything to appropriately do splash photography with, and so the backdrop that I was using was actually a desk keyboard piece that comes out of your desk, and that's what I used as a backdrop because I didn't have anything else. And I was playing around with dropping ice cubes and carrots in the splash to like see what I could create. And it's also when I kind of played around with Pro Capture and realized that I'm not really that great at using it. So we started the year off with doing some splash photography. After that, we started playing around with stop motion. So this is like one of the early stop motions that I had created. It was featuring these sugar cookies because I love sugar cookies with like pink and white frosting. And it's one of the early stop motions that I ever created. And it was just a lot of fun, and it kind of like spurred my interest and everything in stop motion. After that, we have food dye and water photography. So of course, in the wintertime, I really struggle with getting inspired or interested in doing any kind of photography. I'm in that rut right now as well. And food dye and water was just something I wanted to do because I wanted to get my camera out and do something. And so I played around with just dropping food dye into water classes, and it actually really creates like cool abstract patterns in the water. And by this time I had actually bought some like proper backdrops off of Amazon, so I didn't have to use like the desk piece anymore. Towards the end of January, I distinctly remember that I started having that itch to get outside more, to do outdoor photography. So this is one of like the first sessions I remember going out in January to do outdoor photography. I had just gone to one of my local beaches here, and while I was there, this flock of geese had like flown over the lake, and I could hear them in the distance. And from that moment on, I like got really interested actually in birds. So as you can see here, after that session, I went to a different beach to kind of seek out any sort of birds that didn't fly like south for the winter. And so at this beach, there was a flock of geese like everywhere, just like lying on the ice, and I had waited like over an hour to get the perfect shot of one of the geese just like single and alone, like flapping its wings. And so this was like the final shot of that time there. This is, I think, one of the only photos I have for February. I don't think I did a lot in February, and this was from, we had gone on a staycation in February for Valentine's Day, and we had like stayed at a hotel, and we had done a bunch of things that we hadn't done before here in Kelowna, kind of being like a tourist in our own city. So we had stayed at a hotel, we ate at a new restaurant, we did a hike we've never done before, and so this was us hiking at Mill Creek Regional Park in the wintertime. And the next time that I had gone to Mill Creek was then in March, and I had gone out to kind of check out the waterfall that was at the end of Mill Creek Regional Park, but as well just kind of practice taking a self-portrait shot. This is, I think, still either in March or April. It's definitely the springtime still, and this is when I first got the 7 to 14 millimeter Olympus lens, and I had gone out to just test out the lens when I had received it. And so this was at just another local park here in the Okanagan on like a beautiful spring day. And this is like from the same session. It's not the 7 to 14 in this one, it's the 40 to 150, but I just really liked the texture of like the pine and like the mountain in the back. This is a really funny photo because when In the springtime, we had gone downtown to just kind of go downtown, and while we were down there, we actually ran into a guy that had this pet pig. And this pet pig, I had the 7-14 on my camera. That's the only lens I brought with me because I was trying to do the whole one lens thing, and so I didn't really have like appropriate lens. And so when I got down to get a picture of the pig, he kind of approached me, and it created this like really distorted close-up shot of the pig's nose, but it's really cute and it's a fun story. In the springtime, I continued kind of my new obsession and new interest was time lapses. So I kept going to the beach to get different time lapses. So this is one of the first time lapses I think I ever captured, and this was sunset at one of the beaches. And then I kind of keep going with time lapses. So this was another time lapse that I had created, and this was another time lapse that I had created at Tugboat Beach. This is one I was more focusing with like the clouds because there was a lot of dramatic clouds that day, and so yeah, I kind of became obsessed with time lapses in the springtime. And then this is a photo of, again, just like the downtown, one of the parks areas of Kelowna. And this photo was actually featured in Kelowna Tourism or Tourism Kelowna. And it's just a really like, you know, nice spring photo of one of our local parks. We're like still in the springtime here. The weather had started warming up, and so Max and I had started going for hikes more often. And so this is a photo of us going for a hike in one of the weekends that we had. Then we have trying out refraction photography. So I do have a video about how I tried refraction photography, and so this is just one of my first attempts at doing refraction photography. In the springtime, you all know I love wine tastings. I'm not doing wine tastings right now, of course, but I normally love doing wine tastings in the spring and summer. So we had never been to this winery called Meadow Vista. They specifically feature like mead or honey wine. And so this was just a really fun day. We then gone for a hike, and this is just like, you know, just a goofy photo of us at one of the hikes that we have here because we kind of became obsessed with hiking in the springtime. And then my obsession with like birds and ducks and just stuff like that, animals, kind of kept going in the springtime. It becomes more prominent like later in like late spring and the summertime. Spring is like officially a thing. Like I think in the before photos we were just kind of hitting the end of winter, early spring, but this was kind of like my marking photo for spring. And you've got the Okanagan Valley down below, and then you've got the blooms in the foreground here, and my caption here was like hello spring. This is just a landscape photo of, again, the Okanagan Valley with like a sun star kind of signifying sunset for me. Another one of the Okanagan Valley on a different day, on a different hike. Like I said, we did a lot of hikes in the springtime, and so this was taken kind of, I think, maybe at golden hour, a little bit past golden hour. This is a photo that I took as part of the Hello Spring collection that I was working on, and it's just, I was at a beach, I found this little tiny plant in the sand, and it was like midday, and I just liked the shadow that it created, but it was part of the Hello Spring collection. This photo was also part of the Hello Spring collection, and also Chasing Arrow Leaves. So Chasing Arrow Leaves was a different collection that I had worked on, and in the Okanagan Valley, when the springtime comes, kind of early summer, you have these like arrowleaf balsam roots that bloom all across the valley. So I spent a couple weeks like chasing arrow leaves across the valley, and this is one of my favorite photos from that time. This is another photo as part of Chasing Arrow Leaves where I kind of venture to just different parks and areas to see what I can get for the Chasing Arrow Leaf collection. This was a really important photo because in all the time that we've been hiking, I've never been able to hike to Knox Mountain or like to the top of Knox Mountain because I always thought it was like too high, too far, and I'm not like the greatest hiker or anything like that. But on this day, I was chasing arrow leaves, I remember that, and I just decided I was going to go all the way to the top of Knox Mountain, and I made it. And this was the photo that I took at the top. Getting, I think, closer into summer here, we have one of the first photos that I ever took of the osprey here in Kelowna. And then going for hikes again. This was at a different hike that we had done on a different weekend. This was actually a photo I had taken on a trip to chase the arrow leaves, but I just really liked, you know, the sunrise was happening in the background. You had all of these reeds in the lake and the log, and so it was just a really peaceful photo. This was one of the photos from the Chasing Arrow Leaves collection. And into my wildlife, animal, bird obsession, photography obsession. I was basically going out like 4 times a week, I think, like that, to like go see what kind of wildlife or local wildlife I could find. So this is just a picture of Doris the beaver, is what I named her. This is a cute picture of just a swallow. I really like just the use of negative space in this one, and you've just got this tiny little swallow in the sky. This is a picture of 2 of the osprey that were at this park. Another one of the osprey. They just, they really caught my attention in the spring and summer, and I'm sad that I live a lot farther from them now. This is one of a European starling that you've seen on my Instagram, and I think I've talked about this photo here on the channel. While I was walking in the park, these pine cones kept dropping above my head. So this is just a photo of one of the swallows, or one of the birds that kept dropping the pine cones. This was at a different park, and while I was like getting a photo of actually a duck, I think, I noticed that there was something moving in the background, and it was these 2 little raccoons. This is the same, these are the same raccoons, but there was actually a geese family, and it was like getting really loud and vocal, trying to like ward the raccoons off. This is a photo of one of the ducks in the little pond or whatever, just kind of an action shot of him taking a bird bath. This was, I think, the tail end of Chasing Arrow Leaves. So this is one of the last parks that I'd visited for that collection, and Max and I had just gone for like an afternoon hike. Another picture of just the little goslings that were here in the springtime. They're so cute and fuzzy. This is actually kind of a funny photo in that the beaver on the right was actually eating something when the beaver on the left kind of approached him from behind, and it was almost like the beaver on the right was telling him to like bugger off while he was eating, because they like exchanged voices and everything, and then the beaver on the left kind of trotted off. So it was kind of funny. This is the stick that beaver on the right was eating, and so it's just kind of funny to look back on that moment. This is just a picture of one of the spotted woodpeckers that I saw one day. This was a photo that I had to actually take in spontaneously when I was coming back from Penticton from visiting my brother. It was just such a beautiful sunset that day, and like the light was just hitting the mountain in a really cool way. And so I had pulled over to the side of the road to capture some sort of a photo. We've got a little turtle in one of the lakes that I remember when I was trying to get like inspiration to get back out there, so I'd visited a new location. This is when I had ventured outside of the city, and while I was at this location, this little robin had landed in the water and was like bird bathing, and so it was just a cute little photo. At this lake that I frequent, there's a lot of these turtles that like to sunbathe on the logs, so I had to get a picture of him. And in this area too, it's very common in May to July that you have the turtles like hatching and crossing the roads and stuff. So you'll see signs everywhere like telling you to be cautious when you're driving, because there's like little turtles crossing. I think we're almost towards the end here, not quite. Another photo of us on a hike, and this was actually part of a series that I never ended up doing on Instagram, and it was kind of along the lines of who would you like soak in this view with, and I was taking a lot of photos of like these benches throughout the parks with like gorgeous views. This is a photo. The next couple ones I think are photos from an early morning session I did at the park, and it was just really beautiful spring morning. And this is just another one with like the waterfall. This is another hike that we had done. You can tell the trend here that in the spring and summer I was doing a lot of hiking. My brother and I had decided to do this really long hike, and so this is a picture that he had taken for me while we were on a hike together, and this is from that same hike, and just a really nice view of Kelowna. This is the start of summer in the Okanagan. So this is one of the first photos that I captured for summer in the Okanagan. And then in the summertime, it was like tricky in that June was really nice, but like July and August wasn't. So this was a photo that I had captured just exploring like new locations, trying to be, you know, kind of like a tourist in your own city. We kind of get into a bit of my street photography phase here, where I was really inspired by Manaris over on Instagram with all of her street photography. So this was a self-reflection shot that I had taken that I became obsessed with. This is just another street photo. I really liked the pattern of like the foliage, the leaves on the cement. And this is like getting later in the day. In Kelowna, you see these like scooters everywhere. In the summertime, like they're everywhere. They can be kind of annoying because like people just leave them everywhere. But you'll see these scooters everywhere. And then this was taken on a really like hot summer day. I was just strolling the boardwalk with my brother, and so you could kind of see like a lot of people like to enjoy the water here. I had tried to like bring my camera out more on like personal outings, and so this was a dinner that my husband and I had at Blue Tail, and so I got a little picture of my miso soup, and it's just a good memory because we love Blue Tail. And yeah, this is a photo from a rainy day here in the summertime. I just really liked the color of the dark leaves. We get into a couple photos here from summer in the Okanagan. So this is just one of the sunbathing statues, and I just liked the actual sunbathers in the background. This is one just captured at golden hour at one of the beaches. In June, we had gone actually to a Osoyoos for like a whole wine tasting tour. And so one of the stops we had made was to the Osoyoos Desert Center, which is really cool. And if you're ever in the area looking for something like educational kind of to do, definitely check out the Osoyoos Desert Center. The main point of the trip was for wine. So this was just, you know, a nice picture of one of the wine tastings that we did. Another one of the wine tastings we did, I think we ended up trying like 10 different wineries on that trip. This is a photo of the heat wave, and this is a good reminder of the heat wave. That heat wave we were hitting in the 40s, which is crazy for this area. And there was a lot of people at the beach, but you were like in the shade. Like you did not go on that sand barefoot. After June, we kind of hit the smoky time of the summer, and that it was really smoky July and August. So this is kind of like a dramatic, I feel, shot of the smoky desert, you know, vibe of Kelowna. Some days it was a lot easier on the smoke and that it wasn't as heavy. Some days was a lot heavier. Another photo of this was a good day in the summer where the smoke wasn't as heavy and that you could see the mountains in the background. I had kind of gone back and forth with doing like wildlife photography at this point because I was capturing photos for summer in the Okanagan. So my focus kind of shifted from that collection to another collection. So I wasn't really heading out to do a lot of wildlife anymore. But here's one of the beavers again. This is when I had gone camping in the summertime, and there was this loon family on the lake, and it was just such a cute little family. So of course had to get one photo of the loon family. The lake is just so beautiful in the mornings. I love the lake in the morning. This is one of my favorite photos from the summer, and you can see the bald eagle on the top of the tree, and it's kind of like the landscape wildlife photos that I really loved in the summertime, and I was trying to recreate in a lot of my photos, and this is just one of my favorite ones that I ever captured. This is when we tried flower photography. So I do have a video on my channel about how I attempted flower photography, and yes, in that video you will all know that I have a terrifying fear of bugs. I still do, but yeah, I had tried out flower photography, and these couple photos are just how that excursion into flower photography turned out. This is again back at camping, and I just really liked doing like the whole intimate landscape photography, and in this one I just really liked the repeating ferns. Now the next several photos are from my trip to Victoria because it's one of my favorite times of the year. My husband and I had just gotten married, and we went to Victoria for honeymoon. This is one of my favorite photos from the trip. We had gone whale watching, and on our way back we had visited this area, And here you see like the seal on the right is just totally relaxing. The seal's farting, and like the seals in the middle are like really Carl. So this is one of my favorite photos ever from our trip to Victoria. This next two photo I love because if I like go back and forth, it's like the owl is blinking. So this is just one of the owls at one of the locations we visited. This is when, like, while we were traveling, I was trying to figure out ways that I could capture where we were eating while we were at Victoria. And so this is a picture of Little Yunnan. This was one of the first restaurants that we ate at in Victoria. And taking that whole inspiration from Manaris and her self-reflection shots, I had incorporated that here into like into showing like all of the restaurants that we were eating at in like a creative fashion. And this is one of the pictures of the harbor at golden hour. This is from our whale watching tour, so it should actually be like a little bit farther up just with the other guy there, but this is just a photo of one of the killer whales. We had continued going on hikes. We weren't going on as many hikes in the summertime because of the heat and the smoke, but this is one of the hikes that we had done while in Victoria. This is a photo of one of our last nights in Victoria. We had gone out to look at the Parliament at night, and I had tried so hard to get this phone reflection shot of the Parliament building. And then the next couple are just little selfies of Max and I in Victoria. They're just good memories to have. After that, we got back from Victoria, and it was a little bit of a rut in that Victoria was so awesome that I didn't know what to photograph when we got back. So this is a hike that we had done when we got back in Penticton. We then get into fall and winter, and I'm not gonna lie, my best seasons I think for photography are spring and summer. I'm so active in spring and summer with liking to go on wine tastings and hikes and visit the parks and the beach. Like there's just so much activity in the spring and summer, and I think I really struggle in fall and winter to get inspiration to do photography. So in the winter time, I challenged myself to just try and create what I can. So I had done this clone yourself of, I think it was like my fall bucket list, like go for fall hikes, go on a wine tour, maybe cuddle up, watch a Halloween movie, and carve pumpkins. So yeah, fall and winter is a little bit hard for me to get inspiration to do photography. This is a handheld stop motion clip of when I became obsessed with golfing. So in the fall, my dad and I were like heading out to the driving range as often as we could together because I just became slightly obsessed with golf. And then at the end of October, we had carved pumpkins with our friends, and this is just a classic photo that we get every year with my friends standing in the back with like holding a knife. It's just like a fun photo. This is an attempt to get out to do some fall photography, which I didn't do a ton of. I think I only went out twice to do fall photography. Getting into November, we had moved into our first house, and so I have a video going over that process, but we had bought our first home back in November, October. And then we tried to do some winter photography. Winter photography is difficult for me just because right now I'm not liking the cold. And that could honestly be partially because of my pregnancy and that I just want to be warm and toasty right now. I want to be comfortable. I want to be cozy. This is a recent photo in December because we announced our pregnancy. So a couple of videos ago, I announced that I'm pregnant. I'm now almost 18 weeks. I guess by the time this video goes up, I am 18 weeks. And so our little baby, our little bean is growing so much right now. And in a couple weeks, we'll get to go for our second ultrasound. This is one of the last photos that I have here for 2021, and it's a moon photo. So I've never really gone out to do moon photography, but whenever there's a nice moon out, my grandma always texts my dad, or my dad texts me that the moon looks really nice tonight. So on this night, it was pretty cold, but I decided to go out and try to get a photo of the moon, and I've never actually done that before. And I think it's because up until the summertime, I never had the MC20 converter for my 40 to 150, and so I've never been able to get like a good close-up shot of the moon. And so this is my first attempt at moon photography, which actually was a lot of fun, and I might try doing it again the next time we have a full moon. And then this is the last photo I have for you for 2021. So over the holidays, we like to do our 7 days of Christmas, and this was one of the days of Christmas. We had gotten together to do cookie decorating as a family, and so this is a photo of all of us with our favorite cookies that we decorated, and it was just a lot of fun. So something I am trying to do next year is take better personal photos, like personal, memories and stuff like that. But yeah, those are my 100 photos for 2021. So yeah, like I said, that's my 2021 and 100 photos. It's really interesting when you kind of compile all of the photos together to see what your year brought. I really got to see how my photography interest changed depending on the season that I'm in. I really do tend to struggle in fall and winter. It'll be interesting next year to see what 2022 brings, because of course the baby will be born in June, and so there's going to be like newborn photography sprinkled in next year, and we'll see like what the spring and summer brings and stuff like that. So I really encourage all of you to also do like a 2021 recap. You don't have to do 100 photos. I know a lot of people like to do their top 10 favorite photos throughout the year and stuff like that, but I feel like when you do your 100 photos, you really get to tell the story of your year and what you did. So let me know down in the comments if you end up doing a 2021 recap, and I'll see you in the next video.